Assalamu alaikum. This is Prince Wakar Ali Mirani. I am from Sindh University Larkana campus. My class is MA English final year. Subject is literary criticism and concerned teacher is respected Ma'am Iram Kaloro. From the given syllabus, I have selected 4 topics. I will define them one by one. So here is the outline of my selected topics. Poetics summary, on the sublime, essay on dramatic poesy, and the last one is biography of John Dryden. So let's go to the first topic, poetics summary. Its author is Aristotle, and it was written and published in 335 BC. So let's go to the summary. Aristotle was the first theorist of theatre, so his poetics is the origin and basis of all subsequent theatre criticism. Poetics was written in the 4th century in BC, sometime after 335 BC. The important thing is that when Aristotle writing his poetics, Greek theatre was known in its heyday, but was already past its peak, and Aristotle was writing a good 100 years after golden age of Greek tragic theatre. So in many ways it's like contemporary critic writing about the plays of Chekhov or Oscar Wilde. The first great work of literary criticism is the Western World. So what does Aristotle say in his poetics? Tragic imitates the actions of the best people in the society, and comedy in the worst sorts of the people in society. His poetics is really an attempt to analyze those features that make some tragedies more successful than others. Aristotle's definitions of tragedy might be summed up as an imitation of an action which has serious and far-reaching consequences, nothing trivial. In other words, which is the domain of comedy. Comedy deals in the trivial and inconsequential. For this reason, tragedy must deal with the lives of great men, because only their actions will be of consequence to the larger community. Author Miller would later disagree, arguing that modern tragedy can and should depict the lives of ordinary people. Misfortune versus tragedy. There is answer, there is what we say, unsurprisingly, a very big gap between the way we view life and the viewpoint of the ancient Greeks. We place a great deal more value on the individual, but to the ancient Greeks, individuality was seen as the negative thing because it was antisocial, which they believed would lead to social breakdown. So it is all about joining people, but also sort of trying to make them all the same, with the same ideas and adherence to the city states, so they would behave themselves. Plot is the most important element of tragedy. The sequence of events and actions in play. A tragedy should have only one plot, and all its actions should relate to this plot. Aristotle uses the analogy of painting to show how in the theater plot is far more important than character. It is much some case as with painting, the most beautiful pigment smeared on the random will not give as much pleasure as a black and white outline picture. Character is second to plot in terms. It's important. Tragedy imitates an action performed by a person primarily for the sake of the actions they perform, rather than out of any interest in the psychology of character. For tragedy is an imitation not of man but of a life and action, and they have moral quality and accordance with their characters, but are happy or unhappy accordance with their actions. Hence, they are not active in order to of the latter. This is the structure of event. The plot is the goal of tragedy, and the goal is due to the greatest thing of all. What Aristotle is saying here is essentially that the actions of the character influence the character. So action plot comes first because it colors the character. A character's aim must be good. They must be appropriate. There should be a likeness to human nature in general. They should be constant, even if the person being imitated is inconstant. Aristotle says he must be inconstant in a constant fashion. So if a character is made and so behaves in a disordered fashion, that's fine. But he can't be made in one scene. But he can't be made in one scene and then seen in the next. The protagonist is, of course, the main character. His actions are most significant to the plot. Remember, plot is a primary over character. All the protagonists are tragic. Heroes' habits must tend toward good, except for one. The hero Hamersha or tragic flaw that's not going to tend towards the good. Indeed, that's good. That's got the mess everything up for the hero. The units of time, place, and action were of central importance in Greek theatre. All the actions interconnected. Tragedy will represent a complete action, a clear beginning, middle, and end. The protagonist, Hamersha, is the only impurity that exists in his, or in the case of Sophocles, Antigone's her. Makeup. The protagonist should be written in a such way that audience is motivated to empathize or identify with him, because the overall aim of tragedy as a genre is to excite pity and fear in the spectator. Pity and fear will be provoked only in the protagonist. Fortunes go from the good to bad. A change in fortune should come about as a direct result of an action motivated by the protagonist's tragic flaw. This is frequently hubris or pride. The change needs to be logical and to have a clear cause rather than an accidental. Oedipus Rex is Aristotle's example of great tragedy. It's arguably only one of the handful of the most influential literary texts ever written, along with Hamlet and certain passages from the Bible, and yet to give you an idea how much great Greek drama we have lost that has not survived down the ages. Oedipus Rex only comes second at the year of city Dionysia. First prize went to the play by the nephew of Aeschylus. We have offered sort of repack of the plot of Oedipus Rex here. The play is bound with the idea of fate, and it's out of Oedipus' control that he will kill his father and marry his mother. As this has already been decreed by the gods, therefore it is little unfair to describe his tragic flaw as his own fault. So that depends our sympathy for Oedipus, since what happens come about thanks accident or to fate, neither of which was ever in his control. However, it is possible to argue that Oedipus' tragic flaw is his pride. Pride has led Oedipus to kill his father, albeit without realizing the man he kills is his father. This results in his mother Jocasta being widowed and free to remarry. This is the moment of his reversal in fortune, which leads Oedipus recognize his error of flaw. This happens when Oedipus discovers he killed his father, which led him to unwittingly marrying his mother. This precipitates the hero's fall. Following this reversal of fortunes, we have the repetition in the base tragedy. The character suffers in consequences of his mistakes. In Oedipus Rex, Oedipus blinds himself and ostracized from the state. Jocasta, even though the fault was Oedipus, hangs herself. Tragedy must end on the note of equilibrium. The social order must be restored and reframed. This isn't the happiest of endings, so what's the aim of tragedy? To teach you how to be a better person. This means being a good Greek citizen, because the spectre empathizes with the protagonist. He will be led to recognize his own tragic flaw, whatever that may be, and he will want to root it out so that he does not end in the same way as fallen hero. Aristotle's term for this catharsis, the spectre should be purged of undesirable elements that prevent his happiness. The flaw is both individual and social. An undesirable element that should lead on a person to go against the laws of land. The spectre can still empathize with hero because he is not an unregenerate figure. We pity Oedipus' decline because, except for one or two falls, he is basically good man. Thus, what happens to him is tragic. The tragic element also arises from his status in society, because he is the king, and what happens to him will have wide social. So the second topic is summary of On the Sublime. Its author is Cassius Longinus. It was published about the 1st century. The earliest surviving manuscript from the 10th century was first printed in 1554. Let's go to the summary. On the Sublime is one of the number classical literary territories that pose often the considered problems of nature versus art. Nature versus. On the Sublime is one of the number of classical literary territories that pose the often considered problems of nature versus art, of the relative contributions of the natural genius or inspirations, and or acquired skill to great writing. The author also points out that it takes great skill training and self-discipline to how when to give free rein to one genius and when to hold it in a check. This treatise is an increasing combination of philosophical speculation about the elevating moving powers of poetry and oratory and practical suggestion about the grammatical construction and figures of speech that contribute to the effectiveness of great or sublime writing. The author, an enthusiastic critic of his literary procedures, often quotes Homer, Demosthenes, the great Greek dramatist, and even the book Genesis to illustrate the powers of literature, and he points out the faults with the examples from the works of less skilled writers and from inferior passages in the works of the masters. The author begins on the sublime with definition of the sublime in literature as loftiness and excellence in language that uplifts the reader and makes him or her reacts as the writer desires sublimity may arise from a few words that cast lights on a whole subject, or it may be the result on the expansions of and development of an idea that territories suggestions that the forms methods in generally the more powerful. The great danger for the writer who seeks to create sublime passage in the possibility of lapsing into bombast. That what is intended to be majestic will be simply an empty show or other potential traps or affections. In the expansions and empty emotionalism, the display of passion that is not sufficiently motivated, the research for the novelty which on the occasions can create a striking effect it may also result in inappropriate imaginary and diction. The elements of the truly sublime in literature are often hard to distinguish. They are known chiefly by their effect. The reader's sense of exclamations to a great passage will grow in meaning and significance with each reading. 5 sources of sublime are outlined on the sublime book. 2 of these are result of the natural capacities of the author, garner of the thought and the vivid portrayal of the passions. The author 3 are basically rhetorical skills, the appropriate use of the figures of speech, suitable dictions and metaphors, and the majestic composition or structure of the whole work. An important source is the first, which reset upon the sweep of the author's mind. Although a great intellect is likely initiate, it may be enlarged by occasion with a great ideas, reading of the finest works of the past and pondering themselves is always valuable, although although even the greatest mind can sometimes fail below their customary level. The author suggests that Homer's Odyssey is on a lower plane of intensity throughout than his lead. It is the work of an aging man who dreams, but his dreams are Jesus might dream. One of the tormented love lyrics of Sappho, the Greek poet, is analyzed to illustrate the power of emotion to create an impression of sublimity. The tumultuous successions of feelings, burning, shivering, and fainting, are described so vividly and follow one author so closely that the reader participates in the emotional crisis of the poet. This technique can, however, in the hands of lesser skilled writer, then Sappho seems contrived, even the ridiculous. The author disagrees from the discussions to elaborate on the earlier consideration of the evolution of the relate merits of the success and the deficiencies in the creation of sublime literature. He suggests that quickly moving, powerful language can overcome readers or listeners. So my third topic is summary on essay on dramatic poesy. Its author is John Dryden. It was published in 1668. This is the cover photo of the book. Let's go to the summary. Dryden developed a very ingenious plan of writing his essay in 1665. Great plague broke out in London. In order to escape from the infection of the plague, many people left London. So Dryden takes this situation and develops a plan to write a great treatise on drama. He imagines he and his friends sails out of London in a boat on the river Thames. So to avoid boredom, the journey they decide to hold some useful discourage. On the theory of the drama, in different ages in Greece, Rome, France, and England, they decide to allot one age to each of the four friends, each talking of the defense of dramatic literature of the one country or one age. Crites speaks for the Greek and Roman dramatics and their principals. Lycidas expressed his view that French drama is superior of the English drama, so he favors French dramatist. Eugenius claims that the English drama of the last age in England is better than ancient dramatists. Neither for the respect, but should not follow the blindly. Dryden's definition of drama. Here Dryden's express his views on drama. That what a play should, therefore, he defines drama as just and lively image of human nature, representing its passions and humors, and the changes of fortunes to which it is subject for the delight and instructions of mankind. Therefore, Dryden and his friends talk about what a play should be. Further, Lycidius conveys his views about drama as a just, lively image of human nature. After the discussion, they start to give their views and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of French and English drama. At the last, debate goes on about the comparison between ancient and modern writers. So, here are the views and the unities of John Dryden's friends. Here, Eugenius says Eugenius favors modern dramatists. However, instead of telling about the virtues of modern, he criticized the faults of classical playwrights. According to him, the classical drama is not divided into the acts and also lacks originally. Writes, he favors classical drama. The drama, Aristotle, who believed that drama is imitation of life, Christ holds that drama of such ancients is successful because it depends life. He says that both classical and neoclassical favor rules and unities, time, place, and action. Here, Lycidius favors French drama of earlier 17th century. French drama led by Perrier Corneille strictly followed unities of time, pace, and action. The French dramatist never mixed tragedy and comedy. The Neandre, the last one, Neander. The last one, Neander contradicts Lycidius' arguments favoring the superiority of French drama. He talks about the greatness of Elizabethans. For him, Elizabethans fulfill the drama's requirement, i.e., imitation of life. So, my last topic is biography of John Dryden. John Dryden was one of the most shining stars of the Restoration Age. That's why this age is also known as the Age of Dryden. He was great critics. So Dr. Samuel Johnson quotes as the father of English criticism, who first taught us to determine upon principles the merits of composition. He was born in England on August 9, 1631. John Dryden came from landowning family with connections to Parliament and the Church of England. He studied as a king's scholar at the prestigious Westminster School of London. where he later sent two of his own children. There, Dryden was trained in the art of rhetorical argument, which remained as a strong influence on the poet's writing and critical throughout his life. His creative works, Preface to the Fables, Preface to the Indian Emperor, The Wild Gallant, an essay on dramatic poesy, All for Love, Absalom and Achitophel. These were the famous works of John Dryden. That's all. I have spent so much time on the three topics which I have described previously, and this was the last one, and it was biography. That's why I defined it briefly, because university have given us 15 minutes and we have to manage the time. That's why I had no time remaining. Thank you.